let me thank Senator Collins and her staff for helping to put on this hearing, and thank all of the subcommittee members who will be participating and the panelists who will be with us virtually in a few minutes. There is an interesting debate among the people of this country about which powerful special interest has the most clout on Capitol Hill. Some people think it may be Wall Street, and some people may think it's the military-industrial complex, and some people think it's the fossil fuel industry. I myself may be wrong, but I would give the nod to the pharmaceutical industry, an industry which charges the American people by far the highest prices in the world for prescription drugs, and has managed to create a situation where they can raise their prices to any level they want any day of the week. So today people are walking into a drugstore, walking into a pharmacy. Pharmacist is telling them, sorry, price of your medicine has substantially gone up. That's what the drug companies have done. Drug companies are an industry which year after year make huge profits, and they pay their CEOs incredibly large compensation packages. It is an industry which is significantly responsible for the fact that in the United States we pay the highest prices in the world for health care, almost double what any other country pays. It is an industry which has an incredibly opaque pricing system, which pays one branch of government, which charges one branch of government a very different price than it charges another for the same drug. Same exact drug, Medicare will pay a price, Medicaid will pay a price, Veterans Administration will pay a price, community health centers will pay a different price, all for the same exact drug. And that's true for hospitals, for nursing homes, and for individuals. Very hard to know what they are charging anybody else. This is an industry that has paid $32 billion in fines for a variety of illegal actions over the last 20 years, including price fixing, overcharging the federal, state, and local governments for their products, bribery, collusion, fraud, and deception. And yet this is an industry which keeps going on its merry way, virtually untouchable year after year after year. Now, how did they get away with that? And it is not hard to understand. During the last 23 years, the drug companies have spent $7.6 billion on lobbyists, $7.6 billion over the last 23 years, including the former leadership of the Democratic and Republican parties. They have more than 1,500 lobbyists here in Washington. There are 435 members of the House and Senate. They have 1,500 lobbyists here in Washington, as well as lobbyists in virtually every state capital in this country. Since 1990, they have spent nearly $730 million on campaign contributions, which have gone to many, many hundreds of members of Congress in both political parties. Let's be clear, the pharmaceutical industry is not particularly sympathetic to the Democratic Party or the Republican Party. They try to buy both parties. In fact, I think it's fair to say that it is not Congress which regulates the drug companies, but the drug companies which regulate Congress. And that has got to change. Congress finally, after years and years and years of talk, finally has got to summon up the courage to take on the drug companies and lower prescription drug prices in America. That is what the American people want, and that is what we need to do. Last year, 1 out of 5 Americans cannot afford to buy the medicine prescribed by their doctor. How crazy is that? Walking into a doctor's office, getting a diagnosis, getting a prescription drug, but you can't afford to fill it. Meanwhile, while Americans are dying or getting sicker than they should because they cannot afford the medications they need, 9 large drug companies made over $58 billion in profits last year. $58 billion in profits, 9 companies, while just 6 pharmaceutical industry CEOs made $564 million in total compensation over the past 3 years. Not too shabby. Every day in my office, and I'm sure every congressional office, we hear stories from Americans unable to afford the prescription drugs they need. Today, we will hear from Ms. Elia Spates from Derby, Vermont, who will tell us how the outrageously high price of insulin in America has impacted her life. And of course, she is not alone. In 2018, 1 out of every 4 Americans with type 1 diabetes were forced to ration insulin because they could not afford it. You believe that? 1 out of 4 Americans with diabetes forced to ration insulin. Let's be clear, insulin is not a new drug. It was invented nearly 100 years ago by Canadian scientists who sold the patent rights for insulin for just $3 because they believed it should be accessible to everyone who needed it. And yet, over the past decade, the price of insulin has gone up by over 300%. Yet, 50 miles from my home in Vermont, you can purchase insulin in Canada at about 1/10 the price that we pay in this country. And let's be clear, prescription drug prices in Canada are also high compared to other countries around the world. According to a recent study by RAND, a standard unit of insulin costs $98 in the United States, $12 in Canada, $11 in Germany, $9 in France, $7.52 in the UK, and $6.94 in Australia. And it's not just insulin. A 1-month prescription of Entocort to treat Crohn's disease cost $830 in the US, $81 in Canada. 1 asthma inhaler, Flovent Disket, costs $242 in the US, $27 in Canada. 2 EpiPens cost $686 in the United States, $278 in Canada, on and on and on it goes. Same medications manufactured by the same companies in the same factories, all available in countries around the world at a far, far lower price than here in the United States. In my view, we can no longer tolerate a system that allows the former CEO of Gilead to become a billionaire by charging $1,000 for a hepatitis C drug called Sovaldi that costs just $1 to manufacture and can be purchased in India for $4. Can no longer tolerate a system that allows the chairman of Mylan, Robert Corey, to receive a $164 million compensation package in 2016 after his company jacked up the price of EpiPen by 550% over a 9-year period. All over this country, the American people are asking a simple question. How many people need to die? How many people need to get unnecessarily sicker before Congress is prepared to take on the greed of the pharmaceutical industry? The American people are demanding that Congress listen to their concerns and not cower before the power of the pharmaceutical companies. In order to begin to address this issue, I have introduced 3 bills with many of my colleagues in the Senate and the House that would substantially reduce prescription drug prices in this country and also save the federal government significant sums of money. The first bill is the Prescription Drug Price Relief Act, which would cut prescription drug prices in half by pegging the price of medicine in the United States to the median price in 5 major countries: Canada, the United Kingdom, France, Germany, and Japan. Second bill is the Medicare Drug Price Negotiation Act, which would direct the Secretary of Health and Human Services to negotiate lower prices for prescription drugs on the Medicare Part D. Every other major country on earth, in one form or another, negotiates drug prices, and the time is long overdue for Medicare to do that as well. According to a recent study, if this bill became law, the United States government could save more than $345 billion over the next decade. Third bill, the Affordable and Safe Prescription Drug Importation Act, would allow patients, pharmacists, and wholesalers to legally purchase safe, low-cost medicine from Canada and other major countries. We import all kinds of stuff, food, everything else. No reason why we cannot safely re-import prescription drugs. So with that, bottom line is, we've been talking about this issue for decades. It is time to act.